Well, Mr. Cuccinelli, let's go to your argument here a minute. So you're saying it was not a tax, and you're challenging whether the mandate is something that can be done. So some critics of your argument on this, legal critics, will say, well, then what about the Civil Rights Act? And what about the use of the Commerce Clause, which forces a business to basically go into an economic transaction with a customer that it doesn't want to do? What's the difference here with the Civil Rights Act and with what you're arguing here?
When you look at the Civil Rights Act, what the government did was they took businesses that were in the marketplace and said, if you're going to participate in commerce, these are the rules. You can't discriminate against people. Here, we're talking about people who are doing nothing. They're not in commerce. They're not buying anything. They don't want to buy anything. They're being ordered, compelled, a critical word when you're talking about liberty. They're being compelled to go and buy a product against their will, not as a condition of anything else other than that they're alive and they're Americans.
But isn't the government's argument here that isn't the government's argument here that whether they want to buy health insurance or not, they are in effect part of the health care system, because if they get sick and turn up at a hospital, they will be treated, and the price of that treatment will be passed on to taxpayers.
One way to look at the case is that we're arguing a little more narrowly. We're focusing on the individual mandate, and the federal government is desperately trying to get the courts to consider the whole bill and just take this as one item in the context of a regulation of the entire health care market. So your characterization of their position is correct, and if they can get the courts to view it that way, they have a better chance of prevailing. However, there's just no analogy, and we challenge them in court. Name one time that anything like this has ever happened, and they've not been able to do it in briefs. They weren't able to do it in oral argument. The civil rights question, again, was still a situation where people were undertaking economic activity, or at least some activity. In this case, no one is taking part in the economy, nor are they doing anything, because there is an argument to be made that they can regulate activity that affects the economy. But that's not present here. They're attempting to regulate inactivity, which has never been done in over 220 years of our history.
I want to go to the politics a minute. I was surprised to see you have a political website, Cuccinelli.com. You are asking folks to sign a petition that says, stop the mandate. Here where Attorney General Cuccinelli is going to talk about the lawsuit. You think I guess, defend the appropriateness of the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Virginia in the middle of what, you're defending, you believe, the state's legal grounds on this case, getting also simultaneously raising money and doing a political argument, basically raising a political profile at the same time.
Well, last year when I ran, a central part of the platform on which I ran was that if the federal government continued to escalate its exercise of power, its over-exercise of power, and that's been bipartisan in many respects over the last few years, that I would resist that where it was appropriate.
Wait a minute, but nobody's questioning that. Nobody's questioning that.
You asked me about the politics. That was politics.
I'm just talking about raising money off of your lawsuit.
Right. When I was running the campaign, I was raising money to run the campaign, and the day after the election, I immediately start running the next election. I'm not a fool. I know I'm a target, and I'm becoming a bigger target. So we are attempting to defend ourselves, and at the same time, the petition you mentioned is an attempt to generate public support. And I will tell you that I have never seen in 20 years of my political activity citizens so willing to study the substance of the issue before them, to connect it to first principles, and we're trying to take full advantage of that to educate Virginians in particular, in my case, about how these first principles affect policies in the real world. And this health care bill is Exhibit A.
I have to say, to be candid, that you're immediately starting to run for the next election. What is the next election for you?
Well, we certainly started the presumption that I'm running for re-election, so we'll see where that ends up. But I have plenty of work to do now. I haven't been Attorney General that long. These things popped up very early on in my tenure. I'm glad I'll be here to see them through. Nonetheless, what we're working on now with the health care bill in particular, which goes to the foundation of this country. It's really about liberty more than it is about health care. We're going to be working on that for several years. We are contending with the EPA's overreach in the greenhouse gas situation and some other areas that threaten our economy in Virginia and across the country. We have plenty to do in the AG's office, but we do have to educate our own citizens about why we're doing the things we are. I think that's part of being a responsive elected official.
All right.
All right. Ken Cuccinelli, Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I know we'll be hearing a lot more from you as these cases head through the courts. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, up next in today's Decision 2010, did you know a fourth member of Congress lost last night? It wasn't really anti-Washington anger. It was